Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 23 of the Hungry People Podcast, the hungriest podcast in America. It is your boy, Michael Patrick Buckley, and I'm here with my co-host, Mr. AJ Dybka. So we have a cool episode for you guys here today. When AJ and I were at the Woodstock Fruit Festival, I came across Don Bennett, and I've known about him for, I guess about 2 years, ever since when I first was raw vegan back in 2019. And he was a speaker at Woodstock, and he passed out these papers. And on the paper, it says the reason some people don't succeed or do well on a raw vegan diet, or don't resolve certain health issues, or don't lose unwanted weight. And AJ and I are going to just kind of go through, hopefully, all of his points if we can get to them. But if not, we might have to do another episode. But yes, we just wanted to have a little discussion on that and sort of critique it and talk about it. Anyways, AJ, what's going on, my man? Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. Happy to be here. I think that even though you and I don't always eat raw foods, we always, the hub of our diet is, we consume so much of it, right? We consume so much fruit, so much vegetables. And
Greens.
I always think that, greens. And I think that we are always excited to talk. Like, there's something like magical about talking about it. Like, I'm always excited, even if it's something we're not doing, because there's sort of like this romantic aspect of raw living foods.
Yes.
So I think it's gonna be a great episode. And there's just so many people who are interested, and there's so many benefits to eating raw foods. And if you guys know about Don Bennett, or you want to learn from pioneers and leaders like him, or you want to run up the mountains with Mike Arnstein, or ride your bike with Rain and MP and I, you guys want to hang out, chill, eat good food, check out 2022, the Woodstock Fruit Festival. It is the Super Bowl, the WrestleMania of raw veganism. We're going to be there. We already paid. We're excited. Use our code down below. It's Hungry People, capital H, capital P. You save $100 off your first time going there, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So I hope to see you there. If you guys have any questions, leave them down below. And let's get started.
Yeah, awesome. Let's just get right to the punch here. So number one, as to the reasons why some people don't succeed or do well on a raw vegan diet, is too much veggies, not enough fruit. Too much veggies, not enough fruit.
I don't know. I feel like I see the opposite.
If I'm being honest, I don't know if I've ever heard that before from people.
I think people are just eating fucking fruit and they never get a mineral in their whole life. Like,
yeah, right.
I feel the opposite.
Yeah, like the fruit's almost too much of the focus, and the vegetables aren't enough of the focus. But at the same time, I feel like the raw veggies can be tough on the digestion a little bit. And personally, I do like cooking mine a little better. But it's funny because even the other day I had peppers, and I'm like, wow, these are super nice, super juicy and watery and wet. And I'm like, man, why am I going to cook this? It makes so much sense just to eat this raw. I mean, just look at it. It's beautiful. And I can't agree that obviously when you cook it, you're going to be cooking some of the water out of it. You're essentially dehydrating it to make it taste better. But yeah, I don't know. I still like cooking. It's fun. But I will do raw peppers sometimes though. But yeah, personally, I feel like people aren't doing too many veggies. But that's just from what I've seen and came across over my time.
And also, like, I feel like before the 80-10-10 movement, the high carb, low fat, raw veganism, I guess you would have raw veganism be more about the nuts and making like nut lasagnas and pâtés and, all this fat. So I feel like we swung into the next gen where it was like all about the fruit and all about as much calories from fruit as you can get. And salads are kind of like not that important because there isn't calories.
Right.
But now I feel like it's swaying back into like a middle ground where it's like, hey, let's not be afraid of fat or carbs or protein because they're all essential and they're all important. Right. And you always have to adjust to your needs based on fitness levels and age and activity.
Totally.
But yeah, I think that people could be doing more greens. But sure, if you're failing and you're trying to do a raw vegan diet and you don't have any energy and you're just bloated and, eating tough to digest greens, that can definitely be a problem. But I would encourage people to at least eat some greens if you're focusing on raw foods.
Yeah. Well said, AJ. Well said. It's funny that you mentioned the nuts because the nuts is number 2 on here. He says too much nuts, as in the quote unquote gourmet raw foods recipes and or way too many avocados. And it's funny, AJ, we're both going to laugh at this because he says, i.e. too much fat, too much omega-6s and not enough omega-3s. And it's funny because at Woodstock, AJ and I, we were just like messing around saying that we're going to totally mess up our omega.
Yeah, we were in the lunchroom and we were eating avocados. Like, I'm fucking up my omega-3 ratio right now.
You know what's actually funny though? So on our YouTube channel here, just like randomly, there'll be accounts that'll just pop up, like random accounts. And for whatever reason, there was some YouTuber, fruitarian YouTuber. He might've had like 20 subscribers, but it came up on our page. And I was like, yeah, whatever. It was like a minute video and I watched it. And it was this kid and he was talking about avocados and how like a lot of the people who are in raw veganism and like the pioneers and people who run the show and whatever, all this kind of stuff, saying that like, oh, like don't do a lot of fat, don't do a lot of avocado, like stick to the fruits. But this kid's saying like, I mean, I eat 2, 3, 4 avocados a day and I feel amazing. And I feel so good and I love it. So, I mean, you got to do what's better for yourself and your body. And I mean, AJ, I mean, just from your experience, even you probably do feel a little better eating more nuts. So that's like doing the more nuts is more sustainable for you. Or nuts and avocados and fat. Maybe not nuts. Sorry. I meant to say avocados or
So
fatty stuff like
avocado, I've seen huge benefit after being so low fat for so long. I'm like, a lot of things improved, my skin, the fullness in my face, because my body, we have essential fat needs, right? And we also have protein needs. Those are important. Sure, you can kind of get enough if you like eat so much fruit. Maybe you can get that small amount be enough, but I think it's easier just to include some fat. Mm-hmm. But about the nuts, what I did want to say is if I just took handfuls of nuts and ate them, I would feel like garbage. I would feel terrible.
Right.
But if you kind of go more of the sprouting route of like soaking them, making almond coconut yogurt, that stuff digests like fruit. You get tons of fat, tons of calories. So awesome. I'm sure Don Bennett probably isn't for it because I don't know for sure, but I think that that's such a great option. And but I wouldn't just eat nuts. That would just not feel good.
Would you consider like coconut yogurts and almond yogurts like that you get in the store? Would you consider that a raw food? Or
well, the one that I get, which is that brand that makes like GTO, they used to make like the kombuchas. I don't know if they still do.
Okay.
They make like a raw they make like a raw coconut yogurt. They don't make an almond coconut yogurt, but I was referring to the ones you make. And I do think they're raw because they're cultured and stuff.
Gotcha. Have you ever done that before? I've never cultured.
Yeah.
Is it hard to do?
It digests. That's why I was saying I could speak from experience. I don't just pull this out of my ass.
And you are one to really know about your digestion because you just take notice of everything. So you're definitely one to tell.
It's a gift and a curse. Yeah, I can notice every little thing going on usually. Like I'll pick up on it.
Cool. Well,
it's cool because like you can really decipher things, but at the same time, it could be a pain in the ass.
Yeah. Guess you'll have to do a video on culturing nuts one day. I'd be interested.
Oh, it's coming.
But yeah, so even with this, too much nuts or maybe too many avocados, I mean, I don't see that as an issue. Maybe I think if you feel good doing that, then keep it up. But I mean, if you want to be a raw vegan,
how many people are going to do like 7 avocados?
Right.
I think that there is a limit.
Yeah.
If you're doing more than 3, it's kind of ridiculous, but I mean, you're not going to do that for very long.
Right.
I don't think. But also I remember Don Bennett in the talk saying he doesn't really eat avocados. I don't think he likes them.
Okay. I don't recall that. I mean, you recall basically everything. So, but I don't remember
fucking supercomputer. Yeah. I'm pretty sure he was saying how he doesn't prefer them because they're not I don't know what he said. Maybe it was the omega thing, but.
Gotcha. Anyways, let's move on to number 3. The third one is focusing on food instead of getting enough nutrition. Focusing on food instead of on getting enough nutrition. He might have misspelled something there. So I think, and then he has in parentheses D+, B12, iodine. Maybe he means like getting out in the sun and getting some sun, or maybe trying to get nutrition elsewhere other than just from your food. Because I can't agree that I think a lot of us do focus on the food so much, whereas like we don't focus on, I mean, I do myself, but other people might not focus on the exercise or even the walking or drinking the water or getting the fresh air if you can, or getting out in the sun, all that kind of stuff. So I feel like that's kind of what he's saying here. Like I said, he has D plus, B12, iodine, etc. in parentheses. But
I guess my take on that, if I was trying to decipher what he was saying, maybe it does mean like, there's a lot of aspects when it comes to your nutrition levels. It's like, of course, the food is predominantly like all of the main factors, but then you do have like vitamin D, which is very important. And I do think a lot of people are ignoring that. Also, I think a lot of people, especially in the fruit community, just get so much sun and they just, get way too much too early. That being said, like iodine, I'm sure it is an issue and it's very nutrient, and B12 and all that stuff. I think that a lot of vegans are laughing at these deficiencies, like, oh, like, because meat eaters have B12 deficiency too. And it's like, sure, but I think that a lot of people also just ignore D3 and stuff and B12 and possibly put themselves in some type of tight spots because, how often are people doing what Harley and Freely and these other people did, where they were conscientious enough to go and get tested so they knew where they were at, or like Hippocrates, the first two things they check and probably put you on is like a bioavailable B12 and iodine, because most people are low.
Wow.
And how can you utilize your nutrition if your thyroid isn't working as good as it should be because you don't have the iodine? So I think that's kind of what he means. If we have our fresh air and our exercise and our sun or whatever, that complements all the food.
Totally. Very well said, AJ.
And gets the most out of it.
Well said. Well said. Yeah, that thyroid's important. I know it regulates the metabolism and whatnot, so you don't want to be messing that up. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But honestly, I feel like a lot of us don't get iodine in general. Maybe not a lot of it. I know like in seaweeds and stuff, and I actually have dulse flakes. You can get iodine there. And I think they have iodine. I love
dulse. Do you like dulse? I love it.
It's okay.
See, I don't like kelp. I think it's disgusting. I don't like wakame or however you say it. But dulse. So quick story. When I was on fruit for a while and then I started to do greens again, I would buy those like organic dulces that you can get it in like a shaker, kind of like a salt shaker. Yeah. And I'd eat like 4 of those in a day because I was so like, it's like the sodium and the minerals. I was like, my body's like, please eat more of it.
Dang. I threw some on, I don't
like
rice.
it on too much food though.
What'd you say?
I don't really like it on certain foods. I like it on like greens and stuff, but I can't put it on rice.
Okay, because I put it on rice. I didn't like it. Maybe I'll throw it on a salad, see what it tastes like on there. Cool. Well, let's move on to the next one. Number 4, eating way more calories than needed, even of the healthiest foods. Yeah, I definitely. Wow, this is a tough one because there's a lot of factors, and I know AJ would agree with me on this. There's definitely a lot. There can be a lot going on. If you're exercising a ton and you're biking a ton and you're running a bunch and you're moving your body and you're active and you're in the sun and you want to be a raw vegan, then I mean you will probably need to eat a little bit more. And ideally, the fruit is a better option in that case. But yeah, I think a lot of it's just going to depend on where you are in your life, what you're doing. Maybe your appetite is just huge and you're hungry and you're processing it well. I mean, but I don't know. Eating way more calories than needed. I mean, if it's like, if you're just stuffing your face and you're so bloated and you feel uncomfortable, then I mean, yeah, maybe you need to eat other foods. Maybe you're not getting enough nutrition. So
I think it goes back to what we were talking about on the last episode with juice fasting, or 2 episodes ago, I think now. And how I shared the story where I juice feasted out of a necessity versus some arbitrary number. And I feel like Don Bennett has mastered listening to his hunger drive, because I think he looks pretty healthy. I think he's 70.
Yeah, he looks
got off his hair, and he jumped off the stage. I'm like, I don't know. A lot of people would probably roll their ankle that are 35, and he's bouncing around. He's got energy, so good for him. I respect that. So I feel as though my understanding of what he's saying is probably something along the lines of actually finding out what your hunger drive is and how to feed and fuel yourself versus like, it's 10 o'clock, 2,000 calorie smoothie. Like, just taking it in because someone said to, or because you think
Right.
eating 15 mangoes is healthy.
Right.
I disagree with that. But if you were,
Yeah, it's like just stuffing it in for no reason if you don't need it.
if you're just doing it because you're supposed to, I
or,
think
or because
that's
of an
the
idea,
problem.
because of an ideal.
Yeah, or you're just
Yeah.
listening to someone blindly.
Right.
Again,
Right.
it's all depends.
Totally. Cool.
The
Let's
boring
move on.
answer, it depends.
Yeah, I mean, we could honestly do an episode just on that alone. So yeah, anyways, let's move to number 5. The continued use of processed oils, spices, and then he has in parentheses irritants, alcohol, etc. Now, if I'm being honest, I feel that most people who are raw vegan, they're very conscientious of ingredients, and they're conscientious of what they're putting into their body. And I mean, I personally haven't really came across many raw vegans who are like, oh, I'm going to add all this kind of oil, all these processed oils on my food. Now, I think there's more. Not, I mean, I guess technically speaking, all oil is processed. I'm sure there's different processes of like there's different oils in their processing, if that makes sense. But yeah, like even that oil that you like to get, AJ, that olive oil, I'm not sure, like it's like stone pressed olive oil, or something like that. So, I mean, I feel like there's definitely different oils, but personally, I don't see a lot of people just like pouring oils on their food. I mean, the spices maybe a little bit to get a different bit of a taste. And then, yeah, I mean, if you're drinking alcohol, I mean, you could really mess up any diet or any way of eating, drinking alcohol, because in my opinion, the alcohol just leads to worse decisions, and you're staying up later probably, and you're not getting enough sleep. You know, I mean, there's just so many needs that aren't being met if you're drinking alcohol on a continued basis. So
yeah, I think that a lot of raw vegans could benefit from including a good quality raw vegan, stone crushed, organic, fresh olive oil, just because it's going to like soothe and coat your nerves a little bit. You're going to give you some buffer because we're just running on sugar all day.
Yeah,
all day.
right.
I mean, if you feel great and what you're doing is working, you probably don't need any. And I think that olive oil should probably be used in the absence of lots of sugar. I don't think the combination is necessarily the best, but I think that it's definitely an amazing tool that you could use, especially if you're really someone who's been depleted and thrashed.
So when you say like the absence of sugar, do you mean like not eating it in the same meal, or do you just mean like in general, you wouldn't be putting as much sugar, or is it more of like the processed sugar, like the fruits? Okay.
I mean, the more sugar you do, the less oil I would do. And the more oil I do, the less sugar I would do. So it's, I would focus more on like,
I mean, I agree. I mean, I totally agree. It's probably
because the whole point of the sugars is to like make it get into your cell as easily as possible.
Right.
If you put a bunch of oil and a bunch of fat, you're just creating metabolic issues, because that fat, especially oil does it more, I think, than animal products, coats all of like your blood vessels and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's going to make it harder for the sugar to get into the cell. Now, if you're in desperate need of fat, I think that's a great thing. And if you're just freaking out and stressed all the time and whatever, but at the same time, you know, if you're combining them, I think that's the dynamite, right? So I think it has its place, but if you're 80-10-10 type of eating, you know, you don't pour a cup of oil on your stuff, I think you're going to have some problems there. But I think with the spices, if you're doing, you know, crazy amount of spices all the time, it's probably a problem, but spices are good. They're good for you. Taste good. Time without them is good for you too, just to, you know, normalize your palate. But as long as you're using some kind of good quality spices, I don't see a problem with that, unless you're just putting some spices on and you're gorging until your stomach's going to explode. I don't think that's the spice's fault. If anything, I think that's more of a salt. We get into salt, but salt's more of the factor that will lead to crazy amounts of overeating, in my opinion.
So let me ask you this, AJ. What if someone is doing 80-10-10 and they are using like, well, I guess it'd be really difficult to do 80-10-10 and use like a ton of oil, because it'd probably throw off the 10% fat, maybe push it to like 20% fat. But for whatever reason, let's just say that it's still 80-10-10 and someone's using like a decent bit of oil and they still like feel good, and they still like, they're not like essentially getting fat, or like they're still lean and they're still in shape and whatnot, like, do you think that's kind of fine? Or do you think that at some point they might run into some issues if they're doing so much of the oil?
I think it's completely fine. I just meant like if you're doing like a 4,000, if you're training and stuff, it also diminishes the importance of a lot of it because just moving your blood and your heart, pumping your heart and stuff, it really minimizes a lot of the negative effects. I just mean in general, I think a lot of people agree that sugar metabolism is improved with 3 major things: the level of hydration, the time you go to bed, and also the amount of fat in your blood.
Totally.
The fat in your body and your blood determine how well you're going to process that sugar. So I just think that you're going to have better results in terms of performance and maybe that kind of high energy. But in the long run, I think that some of that will start to diminish with the complete absence of fat.
Cool. Great answer.
And I think that the quality of the oil is huge. If you're using just high heated processed garbage oil, I think it's going to clog your liver and gallbladder and give you a lot of issues. It's just not good. It's going to create a lot of inflammation. I don't think that there's anyone that disagrees with that. You have all the vegans, the carnivores, like everyone agrees like shitty oil is shit. Raw vegans are scared of oil. McDougalers are scared of oil. I don't think you should be scared of all oil because, again, I think it's almost supplementive. You could use it as like a supplement, but yeah,
AJ, I wanted to say just one statement on that, because like I'll go on Twitter and there's a couple of people that I follow who are extremely pro oil versus versus animal fats. Like, replace the fats with the oil, even if it is hydrogenated, bleached soybean oil or canola oil that you get at your local your local Kogos. Just because, I mean, their whole point is like their whole point is like the studies, and they say that like, oh well, the majority of the evidence shows that it lowers your cholesterol, which lowers your chance of heart disease and whatnot. But anyways,
I want to clarify something. So I wasn't saying that oil is so much worse than animal products necessarily. My whole point is there's a general agreement of oil, usually high heated garbage oil, is bad. It's bad for your heart and it's bad for your gallbladder and liver. So whether it's better or worse than animal products, that could be another episode.
Right. And I'm sure that like these people, even like the Twitter people, they're not just pouring oil all over their food. I mean, that can't taste good. A lot of oil, maybe like a little bit for some taste, but like you're not going to just drench it. Yeah, that's not good. But yeah. Anyways, I think that was cool. Now number 6 is purposely restricted too many calories in order to lose weight, which is counterproductive. Yeah,
I agree. I think that most people are under eating in raw veganism.
Yeah. I think especially on a raw vegan diet, that's like the one diet where you don't want to undereat calories, in my opinion, at least. So, I mean, I'm sure that there's people out there who do it, but yeah, I feel like you're going to run into more issues under eating than overeating. Maybe.
Yeah. And I think that there's times and places for certain, more calories and less, but I think that generally, especially if you're new to it and you're just, you're excited about doing it. It's not like you have some kind of crazy issue you're going through or something, then it's a great idea to eat more than eat less.
Right. Yeah. I agree. Cool.
Because the foods are just less calories and they're more water and fiber. So you do have to fit in more, and you're not going to exactly translate. If you eat 10 bananas, you might absorb, 800 of the calories instead of 1,000 or whatever.
Right. Yeah, totally. Cool. Let's move on to number 7. What's up?
I said, good stuff, Bennett.
Yeah, right. Let's move on to number 7. Didn't eat enough sweet fruit. And then he has in parentheses, 1 banana is not a meal. And then he says, can lead to eating too much fat and or cooked complex carbs in order to get enough calories. Now, I guess this one really just depends on if you want to be a raw vegan or not, if you want to like stay true to it. Because I mean, I think the complex carbohydrates are phenomenal. And I think, and like we've been saying the whole time, I think some fat is going to be good. Now he says eating too much fat. Okay, fair enough. But like sometimes people need that fat to like help keep them satiated and full. Whereas like some people just eat so much fruit and they're like still not satisfied.
Yeah.
So,
This isn't going to be a popular opinion, but I think that if you're trying to eat fruit all day and then you do like a bunch of fat, I would feel like shit. I wouldn't want to do that. The times where I up the fat are usually when times where fruit is lower. And, you know, I'm all about green juice and I love the green juice. And I wouldn't want to like try to get my calories from fat on raw veganism necessarily. Like I wouldn't think of it that way. I would think of it like, am I eating till I'm satisfied?
Right.
Because if I'm like, hey, I had 800 calories of fruit, I have to have 1,500 calories of fat now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, I wouldn't feel good. And I also wouldn't, I'll be like, this is just bullshit. I hate this.
Right.
But if I was drinking lots of green juice and enjoying it, and then I'm like, I have this awesome salad. I'm not gonna have like 4 salads throughout the day. I'm not gonna have like a fucking avocado with each one and like hemp seeds. I'm gonna do like a nice, delicious, awesome salad. If I want more, I'll eat it, or I want more juice, I'll drink it. But
right.
when I think of doing large amounts of fat, I usually, like I said, I lessen the fruit. I wouldn't do like tons of fruit. I wouldn't enjoy it.
Right.
It wouldn't digest good. I don't like it.
Cool. Good to know, AJ. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. But you know, I think that with the sweet tropical fruits and things, if you are doing like fruit based, I agree with using the tropical stuff. I think that it's more calorie dense and more nutritious than if you're just doing like grapes or apples. I think that they're good, healthy foods, but I think most of you can agree a meal of bananas or mangoes is a lot more like, it feels like more nourishing and exciting than like these foods that are like so much chewing and not that really calorie rich.
Right.
So I think that's a good idea. Papayas, things like that.
Right. And it's funny because even trying to eat a meal of apples, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine. Like it just takes your
like you're a fucking horse.
Yeah, right. It's just wow. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think for number 7 here, I think it just kind of depends on like what you want out of your food. If you want to be a raw vegan, then cool, eat enough sweet fruit, because he says that he feels that people don't eat enough sweet fruit. And yeah, totally. I can definitely probably agree with that. But anyways, let's move on to number 8. Not enough variety of fruits in the diet. And I can definitely agree with this one for sure, 100%. I mean, even myself, when I go to the store, I'm always like, because I mean, bananas are always a staple. Dates are always a staple. Apples are usually always a staple. But I mean, if I can find something else in there, especially when it's in season and it's good, I mean, please, I want to get that in. And it definitely, even AJ and I talk all the time. It's like, dude, when we have variety in our diet, especially like with the fruit, it's so much easier to eat fruits, you know, and you're more excited to eat it other than just like eating the same meals all the time. So
especially with the fruit.
Yeah. I can do rice every meal. Like rice and whatever every meal, but the fruit, definitely gotta get diversity in there.
And I think that Harley makes a great point on this, because he's about having, when he was like raw vegan or he ate lots of fruits during Ryder back in the day, it was more about having variety over the year and not like, I had a mango and then I had a watermelon and then I had a banana and then I had some blueberries like in the same day. That's just fucking insane.
Yeah,
it's nuts. If you're trying to eat a fruit-based diet and you're doing that, it's like, fuck that. That sounds annoying as hell. But if you're having, you know, you have your staples like bananas usually for like one meal a day or whatever, one of your meals, you're probably going to be having like some type of melon, some papayas, some coconuts, some, you know, having that variety over the seasons changing. Oh, nectarines are in season. It's not just because they're in season. It's because when things are in season, they taste so much better than not. So it's not just that orthorexic, I won't eat something if it's not in season. It's more like eat fruit that tastes good. My stance is if it doesn't taste good, don't fucking eat it. It's not healthy. If it doesn't taste good, it's not healthy in my opinion.
Fair enough. I'm not going to disagree with that right now, but
right now.
Anyways, let's go to number 9 here.
Let's do it.
Interesting. Didn't give it enough time. And then he has in parentheses for detoxification and rebuilding. Now, I guess I'm assuming here that he's talking about like doing a raw vegan diet for a certain period of time, and maybe you are quote unquote detoxing more if you want to believe that. So maybe he's saying that like, oh well, you didn't go long enough. to detox and then you didn't rebuild well enough, maybe. I'm not really kind of sure what he's going here with that. But yeah, so
Yeah, I think that
didn't give it enough
when it comes to doing it long enough, you have to look at this in a healthy way, because a lot of people are going to take that literally and, kind of fuck themselves up sometimes. So I think there's some legitimacy. I mean, if you take this average person who eats fucking fried chicken and cheeseburgers every day and you put them on some fruit, they might feel like shit for a while. So I think that's legitimate. You're taking people off of these hyper stimulating, hyper fatty, hyper intense, sugary, whatever things, and you put them on some healthy food. I do think detox does happen in the sense that, okay, like now your body has a chance to just kind of remove some of this buildup.
Right.
So I think that there are things, microbiome does change. It takes time. So, all taking that all into consideration, I do think that if you're trying to sustain a raw food diet, that is and can be a factor. And you still have, people who work through issues over time, and it takes time. It's not like instantly you're going to feel better, but a lot of people do instantly feel better. We also have to keep that in mind. A lot of people switch over and feel really good, and they don't have that like problem. Because Harley will talk about, like, if you start including water and getting good sleep and eating well, you're usually going to notice right away that you feel better. I think that's totally valid.
Right.
But for some people, I do think healthy habits can be a bit irritating to the nervous system and to the biology, because they might be withdrawing from caffeine now. They might be withdrawing from all these really exciting things that usually pump them through the day. And now they eat raw foods or healthier foods, and they're in a lull and they have no energy, and they're like, damn, this thing sucks, when really you've been like overstimulated to like such a degree. So I agree in that sense. The caveat though with the other side of it that I want people to avoid is the push through. When people are just pushing through and they're just feeling worse and worse.
Yeah.
And they confuse that with detox. And I know it happens all the time. It's happened to me. I'm like, I'm doing X, I should be having Y. Oh, it just hasn't been long enough yet. When no, I was doing the wrong thing. It doesn't mean raw foods was wrong. It could have been a different type of raw food or a different, something else I didn't look at. But please take that with a grain of salt, that if people are saying it just hasn't been long enough yet, give it fair chance. But be stable with it. Don't just, be losing all your hair and your teeth are getting jacked up and you have no hormones and you're like, well, I'm just waiting for it to turn around. You're probably just going downhill from there. And it's a good idea to, take a sustainable approach at that.
Right. Yeah. I feel like even when I was doing like fruit fasting and juice fasting and whatnot, I'm like expecting stuff to happen. I'm expecting to like get sick. I'm expecting to like have these crazy reactions. And because I used to see people, they'll post and they'll say like, look at like they're on day whatever of a juice fast and their skin is like, it's like breaking out like crazy. They're like, look, I'm detoxing. And I mean, I think yes and no to that. I think, yes, that can actually be a thing. Cause even still with the celery juice recently, I've been on that. And I mean, I've been having cold sores pop like crazy on my face as of recently, which like hasn't usually happened. So, I mean, I think that does have some validity to it. And I think you are kind of sort of getting rid of stuff within your body.
Healing does take time. So if it's something that is helping you and you are getting healthier, I think that that's valid. I was just highlighting that if you're just failing, that's not a sign of, that's not a good sign. Good. That's not like, oh, it just hasn't been long enough. Usually.
Totally. Cool. Well said. Let's move on to number 10. Didn't eliminate harmful foods completely. And in parentheses, he has here, allows defense mechanisms to remain, continues to burden a body that may be trying to heal a potentially serious condition. Now, I think that's just going to come back to like where you are with your health. If you are somebody who has crazy skin issues or digestive issues and you need to really heal that, then you got to do what it takes. But if you're someone who like really just wants to eat a raw vegan diet or raw food diet, however you want to say it. I mean, I'm not really, I would question what kind of harmful foods he's referring to here. I guess it's foods that aren't allowing your body to heal. So maybe you are on a raw food diet and you're eating like raw gourmet maybe, and it's just not feeling good for you, or it's like really not helping you heal. But like it's raw though, so it's okay. It's good.
Yeah. Well, the elimination diet, I do think can be very important. If you're doing things that feel good, but you're still not getting the results you want, we have to remember that things are triggers. And whether you have some type of allergy or some type of gut issue, I do think that having an elimination diet and really finding kind of like what stirs up some inflammation or reactions is a good thing. Because a lot of people, they will follow like 90% of things, in detail, and they do it right, but they don't have the results they want. And sometimes when you remove something that was actually a big catalyst for your suffering, okay, now you not only can feel better, but you have enough time that you heal possibly the area that was suffering. And now when you include that food again, it's not really that problematic. I hear this all the time. People that have dairy, or they have soy, or they have nuts, even you with the fucking peanut butter. Yeah. And it's like, you didn't do it in this way, the way that I'm explaining, but time away from these things and being able to like recover. And when you include them back, it's like the problem has been fixed, so the reaction isn't as bad. That's kind of how I see it.
Right. Yeah, I think you said it perfectly, AJ. I think you did. And it just for me with the peanut butter, it just took some time to get used to it. I went and I did get tested to see if I still have my peanut allergy, and they said no. And I ate peanut butter and I broke out in hives. But then I slowly incorporated it back in, and now I'm good to go. So cool. Let's move on to number 11. Didn't really want to do it to begin with. Did it at the insistence of someone else. Didn't place a large enough value on their health. I think that
I don't like the way that he said that.
Yeah, neither do
I think it's a valid point. I agree that people get pushed into things, especially agreeable people. It's like, hey, do this.
Yeah, right. It's going to heal this.
And they just do it because they're told to. I think that that's completely valid. And if you're someone who doesn't feel good on it and has no interest in doing it, you hate the food, it's like, yeah, don't fucking do it.
Right.
But to say they don't value their health, I mean, that's narcissistic to me. That's they can value their health and not want to do that.
It's almost no sense. Right. It's almost like he's saying that the raw vegan diet or the raw food diet is the only way to do it. Oh, you don't eat a raw food diet? Well, you don't value your health. Like, I guess clearly
like less than 1% of the population does, and doesn't mean that 1% of the population is the only people that care about their health. Come on.
Well, I mean, it's
just ridiculous.
I'd probably less than 0.01%. I mean, how many people are
that's
actually
what I'm saying?
Eating?
Like, it's just so small.
Like, how many people actually are eating a raw food diet? It's such a
claim. I think that our generation is steering away from the dogma of like
being being put in a box, so strict. Yeah.
Who wants to be talked to like that?
Yeah. Nobody.
Like, if I eat a fucking avocado or I eat a piece of toast, I don't want to hear how I'm such a failure, or like, do I not care about myself? I sleep in a bed. I sleep in a bed. God forbid the fucking hippie fruitarians that think that that's so terrible for you. Yeah, I sleep in a fucking comfortable bed and it feels great.
What age is
these same people who are like, beds are like the worst thing ever.
Yeah, right.
It's like they're like driving high on the fucking highway on mushrooms and smoking weed, and then they think that sleeping in a bed is fucking irresponsible. Right. Wake the fuck up, people.
Okay, AJ, tell him, baby. Tell him. Yeah, what he's referring to is like, there's people on the internet who would say that, like, if you sleep in a bed, you're slowly killing yourself. And it's just like, well, I mean, every single day we're just slowly killing ourselves, if you think about it. I mean, we're like,
you brush your teeth.
Not like, it's not that we're slowly killing ourselves every day, but like, we're one day closer to death. I mean, if you
so people make just huge claims about things because they're just repeating it. It's just like, chill out.
Right. Cool. Well, AJ, let's let's move on to the next one here. Number 12, too much emphasis on recipes and not enough on eating monomeals. Now, I can honestly really, I have a lot of feel for this one, because there's times when I've went off on my story and just saying like, hey, I don't do like these crazy recipes. I eat super simple. I don't want to make this hard for myself. I can get basically everything I need by eating X, Y, and Z. And I do think that there's a lot of people on the internet, even like a lot of plant-based people who have these like cool, crazy recipes, but you need like 15 ingredients for the recipe. And it's just like, it's annoying. And then you make it one time and then you never make it again. So I think it's really important to have your staple foods and what you want to eat on a day-to-day basis, and also have backup plans too. You know, if you are having frozen vegetables, or you have frozen fruit, or you have some nut butters in the background, or you have beans, you know, whatever, like always have backup options, because I mean, there's going to be a time when you're going to need it. You really are going to need that. So
go ahead.
No, please.
I was just going to say, I agree. I think that keeping it really, really simple will determine if you like it or not, if you like the food, if you feel good on it. I think monomeals are great. If I'm eating bananas, I have no desire to eat apples at the same time. Some foods complement themselves. I mean, you can make a smoothie with 5 or 10 things, and that's great. Mm-hmm. So I think recipes are amazing too. Like having that in your arsenal, especially if you're eating a diet that can be boring, it can feel boring, or it can feel, exciting to prepare stuff. A lot of people like aren't like you and I, where we like it like so simple. We don't want to fucking think about it. We just want to eat. We just want to like make something. But a lot of people are like artists when it comes to this type of stuff, and they like doing. They like the shopping, preparing. Mm-hmm. So I think that it's a good tool to have, but especially when you get into your rhythm, you're probably going to be keeping it really simple. I mean, when I make it the simplest, it's always feels the best.
Yeah, totally.
If it tastes good, it's got to taste good though.
I mean, I had rice and tomatoes the other day, and it was amazing with a little bit of sea salt on it. It was so good. It honestly hit. I loved it.
Sea salt has plastic in it.
Show me the study. Show me the study that sea salt has plastic in it. All right, let's move on to number 13. And I actually love this one. Didn't have support if needed. Now, I think this just comes back to like your environment. I mean, a lot of people were not living in an environment that we can eat a raw food diet. And I know AJ, he legit just had a video posted today on him in the 7-Eleven green juices. If you haven't watched that, it's an awesome video. Go check it out. It's super cool to hear what he has to say in that video. But even him talking, he's like, his consult with DTM, and DTM's like, bro, you live in New Jersey, you live in like right outside of Philadelphia. There's traffic, there's cars everywhere. Not that traffic has to do with anything, but like there's just
I did say that the traffic, the stress of traffic too.
Oh, okay. I guess like actually being in traffic for whatever reason, I just thought of like traffic in general, but like, yeah, I guess being in traffic and stressing yourself out. Yeah, totally. But the air, just everything's it's pretty shitty. And then you're trying to eat a fruit or like a fruit only diet. I mean, it's just insane. You're just way up here, and like, you got to have that stability. You got to have that buffer. Like even AJ is talking about with a little bit of the oil. So like what my point is that we don't live in an environment that supports eating. Even, I guess it might support eating a diversified variety raw vegan diet for sure. Definitely. I could see that. But eating just like only fruit would be way too tough.
Yeah, it's a great point too, because what are we supported with? We're supported to get fucking smashed, get drunk as hell.
Yeah,
we're
right.
Supported to just go out and eat chicken wings.
Yeah.
We're supported to go out on Tinder and fucking find some random guy or girl to bone, right? So it's everything that's feels deteriorate. Like it feels like you're working backwards almost in terms of you have goals of like health and fitness.
Yeah.
And
it's like, oh, you're doing that? What do you mean? Why?
Yeah, and it's a big thing. Like, to have support in what we do is so important, because we're social creatures.
Yeah.
And that's why like I'm part of DTM's support group, or his Patreon, and we created a support group. And I think it's important. I mean, on Instagram and the podcast, like, what do you think this is? Like, we're all coming together and like sharing ideas and philosophies. Mm-hmm. So you might have to try to like find your group and find your tribe, I guess people would say. But go in the Woodstock, using the Hungry People code, like us, watching podcasts, watching YouTube videos, join like a support group where you can do lives or like have a group text and things. Mm-hmm. If you want to learn more and feel like you're not alone, because if you do feel alone, you feel like no one is doing this, and you aspire to do more raw foods, it's going to be really, really challenging because we want to fit in. We want to have that social time.
Right. Totally. And it's funny because I feel like it's also good to have people telling you like, hey, it's okay to eat this way. It's okay to do this. It's okay to do that. But then I think like the keto people and they'll like, hey, look at this study, you know? And I mean, you can find a study for anything. And I think, I forget who it was, but they said, oh, like you're just finding a study to fuel your bad habits or something like that. And yeah, but I mean,
everyone abuses the study thing. It's insane.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely want the support, you know, it's okay for sure. Anyways, we have 3 more. Number 14 here. Didn't fast when should have, or fasted with nutritional deficiencies. And then he has in quotations, or dry fasted. So didn't fast when should have, or fasted with nutritional deficiencies, quote unquote. And then he has parentheses, sorry, or dry fasted. Now, this is like, once again, I think AJ and I can do a specific episode just on this, because personally for myself, I mean, I guess when you say, when should you fast? That's more or less like a listen to your body kind of statement.
I think Don agrees with that though.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, how do you know when to do it? Because I think you'll get people who just do it every day for the ideal of it and because they think it helps them. But like, there's also people who do it for other reasons too. Maybe it's spiritual. Maybe it's cultural reasons. Maybe it is to really help. Maybe it really does help out balance your blood sugar. Maybe your healthy metabolism or whatever, you know. But yeah, this one's always a tough one for me. I feel I sometimes get confused with fasting. And I mean, I intermittent fasted every day for 1.5 years, like every day on the dot for 1.5 years. And I don't know, AJ.
Yeah. So I've heard Don speak about it in a lecture, and it is more like you don't have a desire to eat and you feel really sick. And that's when you take some time to just rest and not eat. But it wasn't like he was prolonging some type of fast just because he thinks it's good. So I agree with that, I would say. What was the other part of the
fasted question? with nutritional deficiencies?
I think that's a problem. I mean, going into a fast while you're already depleted. MP and I both agree that nutrition does help you detox or maintain a healthy body. If you don't have potassium, if you have low potassium in your system and low iodine and low, sodium, blood sugar or whatever, you just have low stores of these things. How can your body process some of these toxins or exposures or metabolic waste as efficiently? If you're deficient, you're not going to be running as strong as you could be. So it's important to be nourished, as well as not just nourish the body in terms of just stuffing in as much things as possible, as much calories, as much fat, because then you're burdened, right? Then you can't work to your optimum either. Right. But yeah, I wouldn't suggest fasting if you're in a really, really depleted state. I would build yourself up, if anything, and then kind of go from there.
Totally. Yeah, cool. We'll get into the fasting stuff later, because I even have questions that I want to ask you, AJ, and get your thoughts on. I'm sure you might want to have some for me. Cool. Let's move on to number 15. And actually, number 15 is pretty similar to number 3, or we kind of like made it similar. So number 3 was focusing on food instead of getting enough nutrition. Oh, wait. Maybe that's with like how you and I, like if you're just like only eating fruit and you're not really focusing on getting your minerals and getting your greens and whatnot. So maybe we messed up number 3, but anyways, I think we still did fine. Maybe I just misinterpreted it. But anyways, number 15 is didn't pay equal attention to the other equally important requisites of robust health: sleep, exercise, not too much, not too little, sunshine, vitamin D, toxin avoidance, water, stress management, emotional, I can't say this word. Equanimity, comfortable environment. I've never heard of that word before.
Yeah. I don't think we confuse the other one too much, because he listed vitamin D and like B12 and stuff, and having that. So I think that But yes, having sunshine does help create the B12. So I think that this is still valid.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it confuses anything. And I agree. I mean, the number one thing that people ignore, they focus on fucking food so much, like crazy, and they write about it and they read about it, they watch 100 videos, but then they stay up till 2 a.m. on their phone.
Right.
That's a joke. Like, if you're taking health serious, you take your sleep serious.
Mm-hmm. It's simple enough, right?
Straight up, so baby. These other factors are huge. I mean, if you're in a relationship,
right,
whether it's romantic or your family or your friends, and
right,
they're all assholes and they all betray you and they steal from you and you fight with them every day, you think bananas are going to fucking save you?
Well, they could keep you like maybe more calm and more stable because you're carved up, but
I mean, but it's still an elephant in the room. The diet
right.
Is,
I know.
I'm not saying the diet isn't a huge factor.
I know.
But
I know. I'm totally kidding.
No, I know. I get you, but I'm saying like this is a real thing.
Right.
People don't put value on the things that are free.
Right.
They value the things that cost money that don't fucking matter.
Totally. You're right. They don't.
I know I'm cursing a lot.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I love it. You're empathetic. I mean, you're not, you're
I'm not empathetic.
You're showing a lot of, no, you are empathetic. You're showing a lot of emphasis. You're empathetic. Is that a word? No.
Yeah. I'm not emphasizing.
No, like emphasis. You're putting a lot of emphasis on what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, so cool. But the thing with me is I mentioned that earlier. I mentioned this stuff, like legit exactly what I didn't even read this yet, but exactly what he said. I mentioned it earlier.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we're not focusing on this. I legit said it, almost all of it.
Right.
Except like
I think one of the
avoidance.
biggest problems in sorry.
No, go ahead.
Just want to say one thing in raw veganism. I think movement is so undervalued. Yeah. Everyone's like feels peaceful and they feel good, I guess, but then they just sit under a tree.
Right.
And they don't move their body. You need to build some muscle to have a good, healthy body. You need to pump your heart and your lymph and all these things. And I agree. I think that should be a focus. I do think overtraining in a lot of people where they just take on too much too fast, get injured, and don't train. That's an issue. Totally. But fitness, so underrated.
Yeah, I agree.
In raw veganism.
I agree. Cool. Yeah, let's move on to the last one, number 16. I think we're pushing like almost an hour here. Number 16, made choices based on misinformation or misleading, deceptive, or otherwise incorrect information, rather than on information based on hard science and human physiology. The most popular info is not necessarily the most correct info. AJ, did you get that, or should I repeat it again?
No, I got it.
Okay. So, it's funny because I actually agree with Don here. And it's also funny because I feel like in the raw vegan community, that's like, it's like the carnivore community or keto, where I do believe there is a lot of misinformation out there that people will just promote and say and whatnot. And I even heard Don say, he's like, I have a study to back up everything that I say. And he's like, you want me to send it to you? I'll send it to you. I'm like, I cool. So he definitely, I guess to his defense, he has the evidence to back up what he's saying here. And I actually love that because I feel like I know AJ, I think AJ and me were kind of like not against the studies. Like I love the studies. I don't like do too much. I don't like read too many of them, even though I have a couple up right now that I'm looking at. But I don't like put too much of a focus on it because I just don't take the time to like really fully go in depth to read it. Cause I mean, it could take days to even just read one whole study. I mean, maybe not days, but like to really critique it all and ensure it's legitimate and whatnot. It's so tough to tell. And I don't have that experience yet.
And with all due respect, MP, who the hell are we? We're not scientists.
Yeah, right.
I've read studies. I worked in a place called Elevate Nutrition where we would go through studies and read about disease reversal, but it doesn't mean that I actually am a fucking scientist. And I know that this is the truth. This is the only truth. Going back to like what the other part of the question where he was saying something about like eating our evolutionary diet or something along those lines. That's to me, that's such a problematic statement because you'll have the people who are raw vegan or fruitarians, let's just say the fruitarians, and they'll be like, look, we're built for fruit. Look at our teeth. Look, we grab mangoes and they look pretty. And then you have the starch-based people who are like, our brains grew because of more glucose and we got more access to calories that were easier. And they're like, the starch is what helped do that with the, being able to grow crops and things. And then you have the people who eat meat and they're like, look at all of our studies. Like we always ate meat and that's the calorie source that made our brain grow. So everyone is 100% sure that their way is the right way.
Right.
When if you do the math, it doesn't fucking work like that, people.
Right. Yeah. It just, sometimes it can be so
instead of
hard and
saying like,
difficult.
oh, this is species specific. Let's just say like,
I feel good eating this, or this is what
yeah,
I want
like,
to eat.
okay, yeah, a Reese's peanut butter cup isn't fucking your species specific diet. You eat some berries, or you kill a deer, or you grow some sweet potatoes. That seems pretty close. Eating a rock isn't your fucking diet, right?
You're right, AJ. You're totally right, bro. Oh my gosh. You're cracking me out this
I'm having a lot of fun.
Oh, I love it. I
didn't mean to cut you off again.
No, it's fine. I think my last statement that I want to make here was just that, like, it's good to follow and trust people who you think are trustworthy because you never know. I even follow doctors and plant-based people who I trust, and I believe that they're promoting a good message and that what they're saying is truthful. And obviously, the plant-based people, they're going to be biased towards plant-based eating. They're not going to like promote a carnivore diet, and say, hey, like, we get it, meat's this way. Like, everything that they talk about in regards to animal products is probably going to be negative. Maybe not negative, but just not as beneficial as a plant-based diet. So, I think that's incredibly important, is to just find people you trust. So,
and my other problem with going by only the study thing, I think studies are very, very important. Obviously, I don't like to write them off in like some kind of like completion, like, oh, they're all just terrible or anything. But the reason why it's a joke, what are we looking at?
No, keep talking. I'm just showing them this. Keep talking.
The reason why it can become a joke is just because everyone says, but look at the study.
Right.
And these aren't, like I said, they're not scientists. They're just people. And just because you're a scientist doesn't mean that you're wrong. Just because you're not a scientist doesn't mean that you're wrong or your points are invalid. Not at all. But we have, like, why not take a piece of humble pie and say, like, hey, this is what I think. This is how I understand it. This is what I've been informed with, or this is what I found. But instead, everyone knows best. And I think that the problem with the study thing as well is you can have, this study proves that flax seeds is good, but you eat flax seeds and you feel like shit. So who cares what the study says?
Right.
Feel good.
Yes.
Especially if you're not a researcher. Like, take everything, take it with your own experience as well. Like, this is important. If you eat bananas, you feel horrible, I don't care if it's my evolutionary perfect diet. Or if you're eating meat and you're so overweight and you're like, I haven't shit in 3 days, maybe some, what do they call those things? Maybe some histamines are not going to kill you by eating some vegetables or something.
Yeah. Forget to.
Yeah. What the hell are they called? Like the anti-nutrients.
Lectins.
It's like, oh, that's lectins. I can't eat it. But they feel fine if they eat it, and they feel better, but they're not going to eat it because that has lectins.
Right.
Or you feel great on fat, or great on sugar.
Or what's in the spinach? Oxalates.
That's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah, oxalates.
Like,
yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, people saying that, they have kidney stones because they have salad. It's like, come on now. It wasn't because they dry fasted and because they did all this really intense stuff that they weren't ready for.
Right.
Or they eat so much protein. Like, protein's great, but just having like 300 grams of protein and eating meat and doing whey shakes and drinking milk, and you never drink
just nonstop
water.
Protein.
You don't have any vegetables or anything because you're scared of the oxalates. It's like,
it's madness. Yeah.
So the study thing is just can be irritating because it's like everyone has a study.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Look good, feel good. Those are better measurements, in my opinion, for the everyday person.
Right. It can be irritating, just like the spices that you put in your food.
Yeah. It's the downfall of mankind.
Yeah.
Paprika. This was fun. I like this one.
Yeah, this was great. AJ, that is all I have today. I think Don Bennett's a very extremely intelligent guy. He looks phenomenal for his age. I don't even know. I think you might have said he was 70, and he looks, if he's 70, holy
I think he's
shit.
70 something.
I mean, he looks insane for that age.
His bounce is what impressed me. Like
yeah,
jumping
right.
off the stage
right.
and just
He is kind of like this.
got energy, which is good.
Yeah, totally. So Don Bennett, keep up what you're doing, man. It's
Is
awesome.
he a doctor? I think he's a doctor.
Is he?
I thought he was. Maybe he's not.
He might have a PhD. I don't know if he's a doctor or not, but I feel like you'd be Dr. Bennett, right? Wouldn't it be?
I guess it would be.
Yeah. Not sure. But yeah, maybe he'll listen. Maybe he'll hear it.
I think he will.
It'd be awesome if he listened to this. Maybe he could critique us a little bit, and I'd love to hear. I'd love to get some.
I'm sure he
feedback.
would. If he listens, I'm sure he's going to critique us. Don, I want to say that we both have a lot of respect for you. We think you're a great guy. And going back to what MP said a little earlier, I think this guy really dives into the information. He isn't just seeing, oh, enzymes are healthy and it's because they help you have better digestion. Like this guy dives into it. He wrote an article about vitamin D3 and getting sun and stuff. It was a really in-depth article that looked at all aspects of what people claim, whether it's taking the vitamins, using sunbeds, getting the sun, using some kind of devices. So I really respect people who go through diligently and hammer in every detail of their understanding. Totally. And I think that it really eliminates a lot of the risk factors when it comes to solving a problem. Don, doing great things. Really appreciate it. I hope that if you watch, you didn't feel disrespected in any way. It's all love, and looking forward to seeing you at the next Woodstock. Guys, you better be at Woodstock next year. It's going to be the best time of our lives.
It's gonna be awesome.
Let's get hungry. Let's eat good food. And let's stay hungry.
Yes, sir. Stay out. Be great, baby. Always keep it 100.